Nobody is becoming rich by saving.
Did you come close at any point of losing the business?
You're opening up trauma for me. I saw her in her crib when she turned blue as a baby.
Do you regret it?
Yes, that's my biggest regret. One of my team members signed a $2 million contract without me knowing.
What's the biggest mistake people do in their 20s?
I would completely spend it on fun. I would waste it. Knowing is cheap, but being right is very expensive.
Some people are worried that they don't have any investments, like for their future or savings.
When you were too confident, you would have been killed. Anything that happens in your company is your problem and is your fault.
He left Germany and came to Dubai with a backpack and no money. Today, he is one of the region's most recognizable entrepreneurs and the founder of SellAnyCar, a business that buys millions of dollars worth of cars every day. But behind the numbers is a story of risk, ambition, and the price of success. So how do you go from almost nothing to building one of the region's most recognized automotive business? Today, we sit down with Saigen Yaltsin. Saigen, herzlich willkommen. Welcome to CNN Business.
Thank you very much.
Saigen, many know the entrepreneur, but very few know the child. What kind of kid was Saigen Yaltsin?
Well, he's still a kid, I think. Well, I was born and raised in Germany to a family of Turkish immigrants in the 80s. And I mean, every kid will ask you, if you ask a kid, they will say, we grew up normal. For me, normal was just living in a one-bedroom and with my parents and my grandparents and the extended family. So I would say we grew up very modestly. It's just we had everything we needed. That was our family. And my grandparents came in the 60s to Germany. So it's now fourth generation. And I'm the one that moved 17 years ago to Dubai.
You've said that your sister's illness changed the way that you perceive money. Could you take us back to that period?
Oh yeah, my sister was born disabled. So when I was 8, and I was the first one who saw her have a seizure, which is her disease, epilepsy, a very rare form of it. And that kind of was a traumatic experience because I saw her in her crib when she turned blue as a baby. She was 5.5 months old. And that's when I thought that something is different now. So, and my mother and my sister then kind of disappeared for years on and off, living in a hospital. And yeah, I thought the way of solving these problems is by making money. So I thought I could just make a lot of money and then buy doctors, and that's how a kid thinks. So yeah, I started kind of thinking of how to make a lot of money. So I thought I could become a football player, and then that was my first venture.
Then you did DJing.
Yes,
Germany, talent.
Well, DJing was another way of making money, but actually I started even thinking I could become an aesthetic plastic surgeon and make a lot of money as a doctor. I even started an unpaid internship in a hospital in a plastic surgery when I was 18 approximately. That didn't work out well. I got fired. From an unpaid internship, by the way. How do you get fired from even not getting paid? But I was so bad. So I then started looking into business.
There's another story from your childhood that I found interesting. Your mother intended to put you in a kindergarten with children with disabilities. What did you understand from that experience years later?
So, look, I grew up not knowing or not intentionally not distinguishing between healthy and disabled people. One of my best friends was autistic. He was only speaking to me as a kid. So he was not speaking to anybody, only to me. And my mother always told me, like, anybody you know is potentially disabled. is potentially poor, is potentially aesthetically not pleasant. You're just one accident away, you're just one sickness away. And sometimes she even said, you're only one border away from being discriminated against. So I felt like there shouldn't be any differences made between people of different races, different
100%.
health conditions. That's how I grew up. And she intentionally put me in a group of people where there are disabled people. So I had deaf friends, I had autistic friends. So it's kind of how I grew up. I mean, obviously, I also had a lot of fit friends because I was playing football.
Yes, that's fascinating from your mother, honestly. Let's fast forward to Dubai and your first big venture here in 2010. So you launched Sukar.com, which is a first online private shopping club, and it reportedly attracted 100,000 users in the first 2 months based on reports. So your business was doing really good. Why sell?
That's actually, it was a mistake. So I'll tell you what happened and how it kind of, this was in 2010. We're talking a long time ago when e-commerce was kind of just starting off in the region. So I had this brilliant idea. I said, let's start it off as a private shopping club, which basically means when you get an invitation, you're allowed to join our club, which is a website where you can buy fashion items or lifestyle items, up to 90% discount. So I wanted to create this exclusivity around it. I'm a kid back then. I'm 24 years old, right? So I'm thinking this is probably how you can create some virality around it. But I also said to my team, anybody who applies should get accepted. 48 hours later. So it feels like we're looking into it, but then after 48 hours, you get accepted. There was one problem. That 48 hours, my guys messed up and they did not get accepted. So not all of them. There was a bug which actually only accepted a few of them. The problem was then I didn't see a lot of applications in the beginning going through. So I thought it's not really working out. But the applications grew significantly because people thought this was really exclusive. And the ones that got in, they actually saw these great prices. And I can tell you how we got these fashion items at 90% discount, but that's a different story. So when we realized that there was this bug that actually rejected people or did not accept them, it went viral. People were starting to invite their friends because when you were inside, you're allowed to invite. So that's how this virality started. And then we had 100,000 people suddenly because people invited their friends feeling very exclusive. So by mistake, we created an exclusive club for the first few weeks. And then we opened it up. We actually fixed the bug. And then we had hundreds of thousands of people and actually became the largest fashion store.
Yeah, the largest fashion store and the first one.
Yes.
Also at the same time. And then came SellAnyCar. You started in e-commerce. So why cars? Like they are completely different industries. Most people would have stayed in e-commerce.
If you think about it, SellAnyCar from the outside looks like a car business, but we are a tech company. So we are, when you go to SellAnyCar.com, you will see we'll give you an instant valuation for your car. We only ask you a few questions, 6 questions, and we'll know exactly how your car is worth. Then we do an inspection of your car, but everything else is completely automated. So you have the auction that is running. We have the largest auction house online for cars with over 100,000 dealers bidding on your car while you are one of our inspection bays. And we have created automatic ways of helping our inspectors to identify the condition of your car. And we are selling cars 100% online. So it's an e-commerce for cars.
As SellAnyCar scaled, did you come close at any point of losing the business?
Oh, well, you're opening up trauma for me. So I'll tell you how entrepreneurship feels if I look back a decade, right? So I understood nowadays knowing is cheap, but being right is very expensive, right? Everybody knows now, if you just go to your phone, that there's an AI assistant telling you stuff, but being right is very difficult. You have a lot of facts, but you don't know what's really right. So I learned that when I started off, I was very humble, meaning I was not very self-confident. I always asked myself, am I doing the right thing? Mm-hmm. So that was actually a blessing if I look back, because I was not confident, and at the same time I was wrong. I was taking wrong decisions. That's normal when you start off as a kid or even as a first-time entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I will tell you why this is so valuable, because over time you do things right because you get experience. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is you get very confident. And now you're right and confident. And this is a big problem.
What a mix.
It's a big problem. Mm-hmm. If you're always right and you're confident, then you get to a point where you're sometimes right, but you feel like you're still right. And you become arrogant. The markets, however, change over time. And what happens is that you become wrong all the time. Everything you do is wrong because you're outdated. But you're still confident. You're still saying, no, I'm right. And that's the worst thing that could happen, being confident and wrong. I learned this because there's always a period where you're really confident and right, because markets don't change within weeks. Sometimes they do. But now the big pillars have changed. AI has come in. Big force majeure events have happened in the region. Mm-hmm. Take the last 6 years. COVID, prime rate hikes. Geopolitical tension.
The shocking oil prices as well.
Flood, where I lost 200 cars. I can tell you so many force majeure events that when you were too confident, you would have been killed. Killed as a business. So, looking back, I say I'm not confident, and I'd hope to be right. Mm-hmm. That's very, very good place to be in.
I totally agree.
What people call success is temporary, literally temporary, because pillars change of economies, pillars change, the rules change, and you have to play the game every day. So now I hope that I'm right with what I'm doing, and I keep on learning every day.
Saijen, you've also said that you haven't taken a day off for a decade. What did that cost you personally?
Time with my family. That's my biggest cost in life. In 17 years, I meet my mother and my family maybe 3 weeks in a year. That's when I'm generous.
Do you regret it?
Yes, that's my biggest regret.
Saijen, in 2020, you raised $35 million led by SellAnyCar. Why did they choose SellAnyCar instead of any other startup?
I think it was a great partnership because we are expanding into Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. And SellAnyCar is a subsidiary of the PIF.
Yes.
So that is for me what I call a no-brainer. So we should tie up with an anchor investor that is strong in Saudi Arabia, and that was coinciding with our expansion to Saudi Arabia. So I think that only made sense. Mm-hmm. And I think if I go back to the discussions, look, we are a small drop in the ocean of the PIF or the SellAnyCar. Like, they have multi-billion-dollar investments and returns. So I asked the same question, actually, you asked. It's why us? Like even if I give you 1,000x return, you would probably still not care, right? And they said, no, Saudi Arabia needs this. So I love the way they looked at how it can benefit Saudi consumers. Mm-hmm. And that's probably why.
You're both also a founder and a content creator. How much did your personal brand add growth to your business?
Look, technology has now democratized. AI now codes for you. What has not democratized is attention and distribution, right? So I think I was lucky enough to recognize a long time ago, over a decade ago, that having an own direct voice with potential customers is very valuable. So it creates trust, it gives a face to my companies.
Can you give it a percentage? How much did this personal brand add to your business growth?
I asked this to my team. I said, can you analyze this? And they gave me a number I was not really happy with. I thought it was a lot more. So they guess less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yes, because you ask a barber if you need a haircut, they will tell you, yes, you need a haircut. I asked my team, because their job is to build the brand of the business, and my job was to build my personal brand. So I would say you cannot really measure it. You will always lie to yourself. So I think it helps with trust, with conversion rates in technical terms. I also think it makes me personally a better entrepreneur, because I'm more responsible. I cannot hide behind my logo. If I make a mistake, people know who's behind this. And also, anything I do it with the mentality that I want to do the right thing even when nobody is watching.
So content creation is a big asset to any business or someone who's growing a business as well.
Yes,
Let's say
so
that.
I look at it in three ways. So first of all, people I'll call it traditional companies, they call this marketing or PR. So if you look at marketing, the marketing consists of business intelligence, technology, and content, right? These three things. Now, if you drill down content, what content actually should be is, it should generate attention. That's one pillar. The second pillar is it should generate relevance for that attention. So it should be relevant attention. And the third one is it should be monetizable, meaning you should have a company, or let's call it a machine, that makes money out of attention.
100%.
So those three things have to work together. So if you just are creating attention, but it has no meaningful relevance to what your machine does, then you cannot make money with it. And then kind of is the worst thing you can have. It's like being known and broke. Everybody knows you, but you can't afford a bodyguard. That's not what I was planning to become. I just wanted to become an entrepreneur that can help its companies and also inspire other people to create companies.
Saijen, let's zoom into the UAE market. Based on reports, the industry reports, the UAE luxury car market is expected to nearly double. We're speaking from 4.7 billion in 2025 to nearly 8.1 billion in 2035. Based on what you're seeing, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, it is, today, this is the number you're seeing, but I think it is because us, as a society, led by this government, have done a lot of right things in the past. These are the fruits. So if you eat fruits, you see them, but ask yourself, why is there a fruit? It's because somebody invested in the past, right? So I always said this. Look, I had an interview many years ago talking about what I think about the government here and what they have done. And I always said the government has looked at the world outside, saw what really works, removed the mistakes, and then brought it here. And that made an entrepreneur's life easier. I mean, when we started, there was no e-commerce license, or there was no easy way of kind of starting a business here in the internet industry. But the difference is when you then talk to people in charge, they change the things and make it easier. I always quote one of the Dubai Economic Department team members who said, we don't stop business, Because I asked the question, because I was missing a permit or something. So no, you don't stop business. We'll figure it out. It's a perfect way of looking at how you should create an environment that encourages entrepreneurs. Look at what we've done during COVID, right? We also had lockdowns, but we had planability. The worst thing that an entrepreneur can be in is if you cannot plan. If you do not have a date or a plan that you can rely on. So we had this. Now, what does that mean for us? I mean, lucky for us that we happen to be in the automotive industry that it's growing, but it's not the only industry that is growing. So we're tapping into this ocean. We own maybe 2% of that market, and we want to own more.
If I want to be more specific about electric cars,
yes.
On the resale side, are they maintaining their value? Or you would say they're depreciating faster than petrol cars?
So it depends on the electric vehicles. So far I'm disappointed. It's first of all not a huge market yet. Right? I think sub 2%. It depends, without mentioning brands, there are some brands that are very affordable, but then they lose significant value right away. Especially in the electric vehicles. Some of them are more robust, but generally, I would say the resale value is subpar compared to our so-called traditional petrol cars.
How about Chinese brands, whether it was electric or not, because we see them everywhere on the UAE streets.
Yes.
What percentage of the used car market could they represent in the next 5 years?
So still, Japanese are our favorite, right? So if you look at Japanese, this is the number one region or the most popular country of origin of our cars. Now, Chinese have been growing significantly. However, they're still tiny, still sub 5%. But I also see that because they are so affordable, they're growing. However, as I just mentioned, there are some shortcomings, first of all, in resale value, and second of all, in parts availability. You always say, yeah, even the parts are cheaper, but they are not available. We've seen these supply shortages. I hope they'll fix it. Generally, they look nice. They also look very similar to cars, I know, but I think it's a segment that is growing, but it comes with its growth pains.
Definitely. Saigen, we cannot have a business conversation in 2026 without speaking about AI. If AI can predict the resale value of a car, what happens to the used car market? Does it become more effective or it becomes less profitable?
Look, we've been trying to predict resale values of cars for the past decade. We have almost everybody who owns a car in this country is in our database. We've been in the market for 13 years, so we can kind of forecast as much as possible. Historical patterns give you some ways of extrapolating to the future. That's true. What nobody has really achieved is something called future guaranteed values. Right? You can always forecast, but if you ask somebody, can you guarantee it? No. AI cannot guarantee it, and that's the whole difference. Because if you cannot guarantee that value, then nobody will rely on it. So meaning there are companies that are working with future values, residual values, and they have to somehow calculate it. But if nobody can really guarantee it, including AI, it's kind of still just a forecast. So I think AI will not be able to forecast taste. People change taste. Consumers are very much emotional individuals. And I'll tell you, the biggest change in the world with AI, it's not only in the automotive industry, it's going to be at one point of time when the world changes from emotions-based to a rational world. AI does not and should not have emotions. And humans, even though they think they're rational, they're mostly emotions-driven. That is the biggest change. If that happens, how could this happen if everybody starts outsourcing thinking to AI, even decisions? That's what I said. Knowing is cheap, but being right is very expensive. So when people start even outsourcing their thinking, then it might become a very rational world in terms of AI being just based on mathematics. AI doesn't involve emotions. And I think it would be a very sad world if we just lose emotions.
Yeah. Saijen, I just want to go back to the resale value.
Yes.
If we want to look forward, like 2035, which one do you think will predict a car's resale value more accurately, AI or human? Not now. We're speaking like 2035, based on the data that you're seeing and the huge, vast implementation of AI.
It's going to be a human using AI. It's not going to be an either or. It's like, it's one of the tools that you will use. Okay. The thing is, you can outsource your thinking, but you cannot outsource your understanding. So you need to make sure that you continue to understand what you're looking at. These numbers are so convincing sometimes. AI is so convincing. And then you say you're wrong, and he says, yes, I was wrong. You know, there's a movie where someone lives in this made-up world and he doesn't know he's in that world, right? And then even the walls, actually, it's an image of a tree, but it's not a tree. That's how sometimes AI feels. It's not deep. It doesn't have one thing that humans have, and I think it's one of the most valuable things that we have, is the sense of maintaining your reputation. If your reputation doesn't matter to you, you're a very dangerous human. For AI, a reputation doesn't matter. It will say, sorry, I made this mistake, and make it right again, right in your face. And then you say, why did you do this? So say sorry again. It doesn't mean sorry. And it doesn't care about losing face, because it doesn't have a face.
Yeah, it doesn't have emotions, 100%. Saijen, I want to speak about the future of SellAnyCar right now. Is there any plans, serious plans for an IPO?
So as you already rightly guessed, so SellAnyCar, we are a group of companies, and now actually a group of several companies outside the automotive industry as well. So we have created something called the IMENA Group, which stands for Internet, Middle East, North Africa. And we have created the technology champion, I would say, in the region, which consists of the largest classified in the region, which is Open Souk or Souk Maftou, which is serving over 150 million users a year. Then SellAnyCar, and we also have a ride-hailing business inside our group, which is Genie, which is the leading ride-hailing company in Jordan and the second largest in Saudi Arabia. So if you combine all of this, we're serving now 200 million users a year. And I think this is a great, I would say, a proxy for you to invest at one point of time into the technology industry of the region. And an IPO story really makes sense. We just actually closed our pre-IPO round of exceeding $120 million in cash in February.
Saijen, I want to take everything that you've learned and make it more practical for the younger generation. What's the biggest mistake people do in their 20s?
Oh, there's so many. I would say not doing it. That's the biggest one. I think it's just thinking that you have to have money, that you have to have a unique idea, that you have to study something until you are perfectly educated around something. And then there's others that just have this action bias, or this high agency people that just end up doing these things without having money, without having a unique idea, and without being an expert at all. I think that is something I would give anybody. And one of my mentors actually told me this when I was a young CEO. I called him. I had an issue. I'll give you an exact issue, right? So we started the company, and then one of my team members signed a $2 million contract without me knowing. I said, how am I going to pay this? We had, I think, 2-3 years to pay. But so I called him. I said, hey, I didn't sign this. And he doesn't have signatory rights. And he just said, it's always your fault. It's always your problem. And it's always your fault. And he hung up. So I realized, okay, so anything that happens in your company is your problem. And it's your fault. When you go into the world like this, where you don't find excuses or find reasons why someone else is to blame, and you have your own agency, your own high agency, then you will look at the world differently. You don't walk around like a victim, you walk around like somebody who solves problems. That's what I would give as a mentality to young people.
If you were 20 years old now and you have, let's say, $10,000, where would you put it? Would you put it in property, gold, bonds, stocks?
I would completely spend it on fun. I would waste it. I would spend everything I have, spend time with my friends, go partying, travel, and not think about investing. Because this is also one of the misconceptions. Put $20 aside for 40 years, you might have $400,000 in 45 years.
So money doesn't bring happiness?
You know, the money that you have when you're 20 is worth so much more. Spend everything you have. You will never regret it. 20, 21, 30, up to 30, I would say, enjoy your youth. You'll never get it back. You save $5,000 when you were 20 and did not spend it. Now, if I spend $500,000, I will not have the same fun I had when I spent $5,000 when I was 20.
But Saijan, some people are worried that they don't have any investments like for their future or savings because, you know, Gen Z or the people now in their 20s, they always feel this pressure to save, whether it was from society or for their, I don't know, their next years, maybe they're going to lose their job, etc. So I also feel like they have this pressure. So what would you say about that?
You think the richest people were the ones who did not spend the 10,000 when they had it? Most people didn't have 10,000. Let's even talk about the realistic numbers. When I was 20, we're talking about hundreds, maybe $1,000. I'm so happy that I spent this on fun. I would be so mad not going out with my friends just because I wanted to save some money here and there. Spent it. Now, investment is different. Invested in what actually makes you successful, into your knowledge that you need to acquire, right? Be hungry for learning. Invested in spending time with great people that have similar ambitions.
Yeah.
Don't go to your bank and say, here's my $100 when you were 20 years old. That's not gonna make you rich. Nobody is becoming rich by saving. Most people I know, the richest people I know, they spend most. Spend in terms of spend it into the right areas. They spent it for moments. Rich moments. Not expensive. Rich moments with good times with friends, good food, a good bed, good shoes. These are good investments. And then knowledge. Because at the end of the day, take everything I have today, I will build it again.
Definitely. Saijan, one final question. Forget inheritance. If you had to give an advice for your son, let's say, what's one skill you would tell him to have in order to build wealth one day?
No, keep your promises. One easy sentence. Do what you say. That's it. There's so much value. I have been fortunate enough to talk to a lot of rich individuals in my life and also receive hundreds of millions of investments. And I asked this, I said, why are you giving me so much money? I mean, I could run away with it. I mean, you will catch me one day, but it's because I heard is I do what I say.
Beautiful.
It's so difficult, right? I mean, it sounds easy, but it's so difficult. If I say I see you tomorrow, do I actually mean to see you tomorrow? I have one day given my friend a promise and I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. I told him, hey, you have one wish free. And then I went home, I said, what did I just say? One wish free. So basically anything so now I was hoping that he would come back to me with a wish, right? That I can actually fulfill. And he came back with something which I could fulfill. I was so happy. I said, you don't know what I went through by just giving you this blank check. Because my word means so much for me. If I told you something and I would say I didn't mean it, it's the worst thing I can do myself. So I respect my word so much that keeps me from doing wrong things. It's not because I think I will get caught. It's because I already am caught, because there's one person who knows, that's me. So if I tell my son or my daughter, one thing is, do what you say, stick to your promises. The richest people in the world pay most money for this.
Saijen, that's beautifully said. Thank you so much for being here with us at CNN Business.
Thank you.